Okay, our topic of conversation for this webinar is financing. You know, the snow cone business is a phenomenal business. It's very profitable. The challenge is getting started. And we're going to spend a little bit of time talking over some of the future seminars about how to get locations, getting into events, what's the approach that you use with each of those. But we felt like we needed to start a little bit with the financial side of this and the things that you look for. The financing guru at Snowie is Estella. And so Estella, you jump in anytime you feel the need, which I hope is more often than not. And I'm going to walk through a few things. What we want to do is I go through this, I'm going to talk a little bit about the different kind of options and a little bit of some things you need to be aware of and the type of options that are out there, and then what's the best approach as you go forward, looking at whether you're going to a bank, a finance company, you're going to try to do a business loan, you want to look at a personal loan, you want to do a collateralized. What are all of those things and what do they mean? And then what's the best approach to take when you go to talk to the bank? And so I'm going to take a minute. There are really 5 basic types of loans that you can go with. The first is most typically the business loan. And with a business loan, the biggest challenge that you're going to face there is that most banks will require that you have a minimum of 1, preferably 2 years of a business history so that they can look at that it's not a startup. If you don't have that, most of the time they're not going to do a business loan. Now, does that mean you can't get it? No, that's strictly the bank side. There is the loans through the SBA, or Small Business Administration. What the SBA will do is does a partial guarantee of that loan where they'll secure up to 50%. Well, they'll back the entire loan, but if you were to default, then the bank is protected up to 50%. But they have some very specific requirements that you have to jump through, and those get a little more complicated, and you really need to work with a bank to get any details on that. I would use that almost as a last resort because you've got Uncle Sam in your back pocket dictating all the little things you can and cannot do as you try to get a loan out there. So first is the business loan. Second is to go with a personal loan. And I need to back up just a second because a lot of times when people look at a loan, what kind of an interest rate should I expect? Now, I'm gonna hold on that. I need to go through the other kinds first. So we got a business loan, we got the personal loan. What a personal loan is, simply go in and you get a loan on the credit of your own name. That you just simply sign it, and you have a relationship with the bank, and they go forward with that. Most of us don't have that kind of instant credibility to be able to walk in and do that. So the next thing you end up with is what they call a secured loan. And secured loans, what that means is that there is something backing that if the loan goes bad, they can get that money some other way. Most common of these is a second mortgage. And what that means is you take out a second loan on the house. The house is simply the collateral, if you will, that guarantees that that loan is going to be taken care of. If not, then they put the lien against the house. But they will do certificates of deposit. They'll do investments, 401ks. A lot of times they will look at a variety of different things as a way of securing that loan. And that gives you that added value. And in that you can typically get a little better rate than just walking in and saying, I'm just going to go with this and I'm going to provide the loan, and they don't secure it, then the bank raises the interest rate on you. And what we're trying to do is get you the best rates possible. The last type is going through a finance company. There are a couple of different types of finance companies. One is you're going to look at what is called a leasing company. And what that is you don't actually own the equipment. The leasing company owns the equipment, and you lease it from them. And then the end of a period of time, then there's an agreement where you buy it from them. There are tax benefits or tax advantages to that. If you're interested in that, that's a conversation from a tax perspective that you need to have with your CPA or tax attorney if you're interested in looking at the benefits of leasing. That's something we are not tax experts. We don't give tax advice. So my recommendation is take that one up with your CPA if you're interested in doing it. Second type of finance company is simply they are not a traditional bank. They follow it. That's all they do is loans. They don't sell financials and investments and property and that kind of stuff. Their job is financing, and in most cases for businesses. Some will do small amounts, some do large, varies from company to company. We have a number of those listed on our website. And then the last one, the third of those, is what we call the loan sharks, and those are the ones that you find on the street corners that are the cash checking places, and their rates are extremely high. Back to something I was going to start earlier. What kind of an interest rate would I expect with these? Most people are familiar with, you see all over the internet now, and you hear on the news that mortgage rates are down to 2.65%. And that's on a 30-year interest rate on your home. And that's a great rate, but you're never going to get that on a business loan. What is the reality of what I can expect? If I'm doing a business loan, I have an established business credit, I'm going to probably be today in the 6 to 8% interest rate. This is assuming you've got a good credit history, probably in the 650 to 700 plus. You'll get a better rate. If your credit history or your credit score is below 650, then that'll begin to raise that rate. If you're below 550, most banks are not going to look at consideration, or they'll put some pretty specific particulars on there, and will mandate the secured loan if you're interested in doing that. If you go with the unsecured loan, you're probably looking at an 8 to 12% interest rate. If you're going with the finance companies, they're going to run in the 12 to 20% interest rate, depending on your credit history, how much money are you putting down, those kind of things. And then the loan sharks get into 40 to 50% interest, and we obviously recommend you stay away from those kind. Those don't benefit anybody in doing that except them. Estella, why don't you, if you've got a minute, could you walk through a little of the different kind of finance companies that we have on the website, and so, recommendations, and cautions, etc.?
And maybe Aaron can click on financing if he can, so they can see it. But we have 3 different third-party finance companies. 2 of them are leasing companies. That would be Strata and Balboa. I think I'm saying that, Balboa. Anyway, they do have programs, if you do ask, that are not leasing. Like, you could own it. You would just need to clarify, but they mostly do leasing. So I wanted to point that out, because if you're not really interested going that direction, then you need to make sure you clarify that with them, because that's really what they do. But they do have other programs. So it would be in your best interest just to, ask all the things that they can offer you. And SSI Funding is not a leasing company. They are actually through Snowie. They will only finance the van, the bus. We don't finance anything else but just the Snowie bus, so keep that in mind. And they really will not turn anyone away. Their goal is to help anyone, and really I think their main focus is that you can get in, and if it doesn't seem, because their interest rate is higher, and that's the reason they do that is because they're trying to help anyone that maybe doesn't have credit or has poor credit. They're not going to turn anyone away. So I've always, when I talk to my customers, I've just told them, if you have an opportunity to go with someone else, please do so, because their interest rate is going to be on the higher end. It's 19.9%, and they do require 40% down. But we have financed a few people, and it's worked out really well. There is an incentive. They do offer 120 days no interest. So our goal is to have you guys try within that time period to put as much money down so that you're not paying the interest, the higher interest. Or if at that point you wanted to reevaluate your, if you wanted to look into another company, that would give you an opportunity during that time period to get into the business, and then still look around if you needed to, if you could find a better rate. So that's in a nutshell what these 2 or 3 companies do. We've had really great success with Strata. They've done a lot of financing for us. The other company, I think we may have done one transaction. I'm not quite sure. So, but they're both great companies to work with.
Okay. Estella, talking just to touch on Strata, can you give us an idea? Do you know what their down payment is? Or I'm sorry, what portion they expect? Like you put 40% down with SSI. What's the amount that Strata looks for to be put down, and then they'll either finance or, you said, lease the balance?
Right. I honestly don't know. They do go by the individual and their special circumstances. So if they have really great credit, they may not require a certain amount, or they may not require a larger amount down. I really don't know their programs. And that's why I want to clarify that we refer our customers to these companies, but please keep in mind that we do not know what their programs are about. We know that they do provide some great programs, but we don't know much about them. And so they are a third-party company. They are not affiliated with Snowie. We just put them on our website so that you have an option to check them out. They know about our business, and that's why they're willing to help us. They know about what we do and what you guys would be doing, because this is, I mean, if you're buying from us, you're part of our family. So they know what we do, and they know about our product, and so that's why they're excited about helping us out.
Thank you. And that's a key point is that Stella brought up, is that they're already familiar with us. Especially SSI, they're going to be the most familiar with our operations, but they do focus on the Snowie bus. And as we go through this, a lot of what we want to go through today is, how do I present this to a bank to try to get at that preferred rate and get a better financing as I go through it, whether I'm talking to a bank, talking to a credit union. By the way, credit unions tend to be easier to work with than the banking industry. They're regulated different, have a different set of guidelines. Typically a little bit easier if you belong to a credit union to secure a loan with them, and typically you can get a little bit better interest rate than you would through a bank as well. So how do we get people familiar with Snowie, and what is the bank looking for? Aaron, can you pull up that folder we looked at on the financial stuff?
Yeah, I've got it here. Which one do you want to open?
Open up the one that is the finance application, the personal financials.
Oh, gotcha.
Now, all of these have a different application to them, and they'll have their own individual application, but the key thing that they're always looking for is, what are your financials? And this is just a sample of what a financial brochure would look, or a financial expectation. They're going to look through in this, what are your assets? And I'm having a hard time seeing that, Aaron. Can you blow that up just a little bit? That's smaller, Aaron. At the bottom, you should have the ability to just, oh, you're on a Mac. Yours isn't as user-friendly as mine. You know what? Transfer the screen over to me. Okay, I got to pull it back. What this does on the personal financials, and this is just a little screen that tells you what you need to look for and that kind of stuff, and it can be erased at any time. But as we go through this personal financial statement, you'll put your name on here, assets, how much cash do I have in checking accounts, how much of my savings, certificates of deposits, life insurance policies, any CDs.
Lyle?
Yeah.
I don't think we're seeing your screen. Oh, never mind. I think I see you there. Never mind. Go ahead. I'm wrong.
Okay. And so this is the assets. These are the things that you have money set aside, and this would include 401ks, IRAs, literally every dollar you have, this is where you're going to want to list it. So this gives you an idea before you go to the bank or download or get one of their applications or download an application, what do I need? And the idea here is this is the information you're looking for that they're going to want. The second is they're going to want to know, what are your liabilities, or what are the risks or debt that you already have? What do you owe money on? This is going to be your mortgage. This will be the car. Any loans if you have for like computers and equipment. If you have another business, any money that you already have outstanding in a loan for a business, those types of things. And that's total that up. And so what they're looking for is, okay, if you've got $100,000 of assets and you got 50,000 of liabilities or debts that are out there, net worth is that difference. So in that case, using 100,000 assets, 50,000 of liability, you got a net worth of $50,000. And they're going to look at that and give you an idea. Then below, they're going to ask for more detail on who do you owe the money to, where are your securities, the companies that you have part ownership in or business in, what kind of income does it do, how much do you generate out of it, do you own any real estate, you know, is there a home, do you own other property? Then they're going to look at your debt. Is it credit card debt? Is it the business, or is it the home loan? Is there a second mortgage on that home? They go through it. So this just gives them an idea, because they're going to look at credit card debt versus debt might be that you defaulted on, you know, paying a credit card, or not necessarily a credit card, but you took a loan out with, I can't even think of a good example, but took a loan out on something to buy something through a company, an individual company, and finance through them, and if you've defaulted on it, or you're paying that off over time, they're going to want to be able to see this. And so they're looking at the risk factor with each of these different kinds, and they'll typically be able to determine how much, what the general interest rate is if they need that. Some of them you'll see under the notes payable interest rates, they'll even ask what those are in many of the cases. Credit cards, they don't as much. But this is, you need to know where your financials are, because they're going to ask you some very serious questions about that, and want to make sure that they're taking a good risk with that. So get your financials and be prepared to share those with them. And then they're going to want to look at it and say, okay, what's the business that you're in? And a good example of this is a sample of a business. You'd put in your company, you know, obviously for us would be Snowie, your name, your phone number. And then we're going to go through, and the bank wants to see, remember, you're trying to sell yourself and the opportunity that Snowie presents. To just go in and say, I need to have a loan, and it's like, okay, and you show them a picture, and they're like, okay, now what? And it's like, well, I want to do this business, and here's what it's going to do. They've already made up their mind. Any loan officer is like, okay, they're unprepared. They don't know what they're doing. They don't have knowing, you know, where's your target market? What are you trying to accomplish? So I'm going to walk through a lot of these things, and we make these available if you're interested. You can email us. I see here, please email Lyle directly at lyle@snowie.com. Yes, Aaron's keeping tabs on that. You can email me, and I'll send you any of the content that we have here to make this easier for you. But I'm going to walk through. So there's, what are the pieces in here that they're looking for? So we start with that executive summary, and we've even built a lot of this. You don't have to come up with all your verbiage. We've made it where you can go in and tweak this and come up with your own names and personalize it to what you do. But it's a starting point. You'll want to add things, take away things. That's what this is about, is it's a template that you can work off of. So this executive overview is just, here's who we are, here's the business that we're in, and the opportunity that we found, not just for this business, but with a company that has an experience and can show us the details. And we're going to come into numbers a little bit later, which is where bankers really like it. Our objectives as a company. And, you know, I've listed 6 real popular ones here, which are accurate. Create a profitable business, market a profitable product, develop relationships for all the different things that we do. We're using Snowie's already recognizable name and expanding and building on that. Opportunity for businesses, or for youth in the area to have an opportunity to learn and to work. And we work around all kinds of things. And we're even going to do one of our later shows, one of our later webinars is going to talk about, how do I find employees? How do I manage them? How do I schedule? We have all kinds of tools and resources for that. And so that's the objective of what we're trying to accomplish. The background. You know, and I actually realized I've got to expand this, because at this time when I put this one together, I didn't have the bus. We talked about the semi-permanent locations, or stationary, where I put in a shopping center and leave it there for the summer. The mobile kiosk, and now we would add the bus in here, is where we can travel around. First one is the customer comes to us. The second, that mobile kiosk and event, is where we're now going. We're going to the customer here to get the snow cones. The bus just allows us to go to more customers, and that's something I just realized I'll need to tweak, and I'll bring that in. If you're looking at the bus specifically, we have a separate business plan that I'll go through in a minute. We talk about, they're like, okay, so you're going to be in the business, you're either going to put something in a shopping center, or the customers are going to be at the events and you'll go there. Now we want to talk about the equipment, the visual image, the walk up a hill, and this talks about it. And in here, we don't have it in here at the time, but we can supply an image of Snowie that would give you a pretty good feel for, you know, the graphics and all of that kind of stuff. And we would supply different pictures depending on what you're trying to do. I was trying to keep this document from getting too big, so I didn't attach pictures at this point. But the idea is that you can put pictures in to support the design. So one thing you will consistently hear is the attractiveness, the cleanliness of Snowie buildings. And people see them, they remember it, it sticks out. It's so unusual from anything else out there. In fact, one of the things I'm really cautious when I'm talking to somebody about a location we're trying to get in, I always start my conversation is, you know, we want to talk to you about putting a snow cone stand on your property. However, before we go any further, I need to address the fact that in your mind, you probably are picturing one of these converted trailers with the wheels sitting on the side, and it's, you know, 2 feet off the ground, or you've got a storage shed that they've taken and cut a hole in the wall and put a window in it and call it a snow cone stand. We're a little different. And you know, are you in front of a computer? Yeah, let's pull up snowie.com and let me show you some of our images, what our pictures look like, what our buildings and our kiosks, et cetera, et cetera. But again, a picture in the business plan helps. Hello?
Hey, Lyle?
Yeah.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
I was going to say, I don't know if maybe, this may be a question to Aaron too, is do we have on the site where customers can grab pictures and use those when they go to the bank to show them? And obviously the pictures you want to show are the ones that we were just looking at that have a bunch of people and you can see the events and things like that, so they can kind of get a visual of the potential earnings that this individual is going to be making to see that it can be lucrative.
Well, that's what we said. We could do pictures. Aaron, I don't know. Do we have a spot they can go in and download?
Yeah, well, I was actually looking at it. We actually, let me see here. We actually have, it is a link. On our old site, our photo album used to be downloadable. But what we'll do, since this was brought up, I didn't notice that, what we can do is we'll make a public Dropbox so that those images can be out there and anybody can download those as well to be able to use for their pitches.
I just think that we have the great images of the individual building where people can see when they buy, but if they can see it in action, I think it even presents itself even greater when it comes down to,
you know what?
Like this right here is a picture right here.
Yeah, see, this is one I actually use when I talk to places and say, you know, understand this is an outdoor mall, and you'll see this world of crabs behind it and magic rice, and there's a bunch you don't see. We are the only vendor that is allowed to bring our own kiosk in because the look is so unique and so attractive. They don't let anybody else bring in their own equipment. They absolutely forbid it, and yet they allow Snowie to do it. And for them to put that, and we are literally right in the dead center of this. This is the largest tourist attraction in this greater Cincinnati area called Newport on the Levee, and it's huge. And if we were an eyesore, they wouldn't let it in. And anybody in this area obviously knows who Newport on the Levee is, and so as soon as we bring that up, they're like, wow, that must be nice. And it gets their attention. Then they're like, okay, give me a little more information. And so we do that. But this is a perfect example of a picture that we can download and make available to you.
All the pictures still are downloadable, but they've all been compressed, so they're smaller images. So we will put up a folder where people can grab full images that make a better print.
Yeah. You know, you want to see, this is one that sits in a shopping center. And so the buildings there, you can see we got, and this is what you're talking about, Estella, is you want something to show them, to look at the customers here. This isn't staged. We just stop randomly and pick up pictures. That location, just so you have an idea, and we're going to talk, like I said, in another webinar about locations and the things that you can do. But this, location does about, on an average, around $60,000 a year. And what is it that made that one work when you get one that's only doing 20,000? And we'll be able to do that in a different webinar. So
that'll be a great one to do.
Yes. So Stella, thank you for jumping in there. We talk a little bit about the product. I even first time I did this, I brought a snow cone machine in the car with me when I went to the bank and said, I want you to understand the quality of this product. Do you have a kitchen in the back? And he said, yeah, why? And I said, I want to bring our shaver in. And I brought in a Snowie 1000 shaver and a couple of bottles of flavor and made snow cones for everybody in the bank, including customers. And they were like, this is cool. And people were like, man, these are good. You know, and it was just, it's something different. Don't just go in and present numbers. You got to get them excited about it, saying there's something a little more to this than just making snow cones. And if you're that assertive and out there talking, they love this and saying, wow. And so it looks like you've done your research and you have this. Now, you know, that's not always possible when you're just getting started. I happen to have the machine, and I was going in as a second year to do this. The quality of the service that comes with this. I talk about the employees and the workers and what we do and how we treat customers. We talk about our reputation, both as a corporate Snowie and our reputation locally and the way that we do things and our involvement in the community. We talk about who's the management. This is where you get to pat yourself on the back and tell them who you are. And that's what they're interested in knowing, is who's the person. It's one thing to have snow cones, but who's going to manage it and drive it and make the thing successful. Ease of expansion. Okay, if you want to go from one location to 10, how do you do that? And this talks about the expansion capability and the different equipment. When we talk about buildings, ice shavers, this needs to be built up a little bit more as we go through it. And then they're going to say, okay, this is nice, but where are the numbers? And so what we do at that point is you're able to go out and pull up. You know, we showed this on our first seminar, the amount of profit that can be done on a stationary location, that you're able to go in and go through and say, look, here's the amount of profit. If I can do $200 a day, $300 a day, here's how much money I can make. And they're going to be going, oh, that's interesting. And, you know, projected if I have multiple locations. You can do the same thing with the kiosks. It goes through and shows you numbers. Again, all of these forms, all of this material is available. I actually had somebody call me the other day and had seen one of the webinars and said, you guys are out of your minds. Why do you share this information with the general public? And I'm like, why wouldn't we? Because, well, everybody else, you got to sign a non-disclosure and all this different kind of stuff. And I'm like, we're not a franchise. Our job is to help you be successful. And it doesn't take much to figure out. What we don't tell you is what we haven't told you. We're sharing with you a lot of information, but everything we do is designed to make you successful. And if we've got this kind of information generally available, then it means we can stand behind our product. We know we've got something that's better. We're not going to do this if we think everybody's going to jump ship and go to some other competitor. When you've got the best products, the best flavors, the best buildings, the best shavers out there, you want people to be able to have that free flow of information. Why go anywhere else if you got a company that is very open and doesn't hold everything close to the vest? We want you successful, and here's the way to do it, is to give you the information and the tools you need to be able to get out there and market yourself. The other thing they'll look at with the business plan, sorry, I got to find my, there we are, is they'll say, okay, how much can you do? And this would be an example where you could say, okay, you know, in 2004, I bought one kiosk and we did 13 events. We did 24,000 in sales. I made $10,000 profit. You know, my projection the next year, we want to have 2 of them. We're going to double our sales. We're going to add permanent locations. And here's what I want to do on the financing. You know, I should be able to generate X number of profit. And this is pulling all that from the others, but they want to be able to see that you're looking beyond just this year. Do I want to grow? Do I want to expand as I go through that? And this has subsequent years. And again, we can put all this together very easily and provide that to you. And I'm blowing through this because I don't want to take a lot of time and just walk through a lot of numbers, but I want you at least exposed to it. So when you go in and say, here's what we're doing, or here's what we're thinking we're going to do the first year, here's our expansion plans, here's where we think we're going to be in 5 years, here's the numbers, here's how fast I can pay my debt back, you know, my cost recovery, we'll have all of that information. You go into this, you're light years ahead of most people that go into to banks. Most people just walk in and say, what do I need? Here you're walking with a business plan and pictures and financials, and you're prepared. You've now presented yourself so different from anybody else in the marketplace, in the startup world, that you get the banker, more often the loan officer's attention. They're just not used to somebody coming in prepared, and that's what we want you to do, is to have the tools to be prepared, to be able to walk in and get that loan on it. This is the example with the bus. It takes the same thing but looks specifically. There's our summary again, our objectives, walks through the markets for the bus, events, large major events, small events, business market, daycares, and then creative is just some unusual things that we can do. Again, the background, the appeal of the bus, you know, we could spend hours just talking about that. Again, the product quality, not dramatically different from what we did before, our reputation, who's the manager of the company. This one, and again, we go into the equipment here. This one I did stick a couple of pictures in here so people could see, like this, we're at a soccer tournament. Here I stopped in at a business, and we got, you know, people say, oh, adults don't do this. You kidding? We showed up at this place and had this particular event, was a company of 100 employees, and over the course of an hour and a half, we had about 75 of those 100 employees come out and bought Snowies. Huge hit. This was a Relay for Life that we did at night. And in a period of 4 hours, they sold about $800 worth of snow cones, and we donated all that to Relay for Life. Everybody knows our name. It was announced 400 times. Snowy's here. They're donating. Everybody knows who we are. In the revenue summary to put the information in front of the customers. And then I even like to add a couple of things. One is a vision statement. What are the values of our company and how we do business? You know, our vision is to provide customers with a fun, positive, memorable experience. We do this through offering top-tier products and provide an extraordinary customer service. And then we hit our top values. Our responsibility is customers. Second is our employees. Third is community involvement. Fourth is, if I've done all the other things, I've earned the right to a profit. And we live and die by that. My employees will tell you, I believe that wholeheartedly, or I wouldn't put it in writing to do that. So there, again, a banker can see how you think and what you look for. We've even had some summaries here of, this is a why Snowy. It's all the visual things that were in the business plan. These are things we give to different places, just saying, you know, here's our visual, our cleanliness. Where do we hire our employees from? I got an 80%. That's actually gone up. I have an 85% return rate of my employees. How I've been in the business, what's my commitment to it, our ethics, our community recognition. All this is designed to drive customers. But more than anything, it's designed to get the attention of the loan officer or the banker or the property owner to do that. They're even going to want to say, okay, well, how do you keep employees from ripping you off? And that's where our cup count sheets come in. And I supply them these forms and say, and here's what the employee keeps track of. I can get it pulled up here. This is where we keep track of every cup that gets used during the day. You know, they put how many cups they start with, how many they end with, and at the end of the day, oh, I did have that. You know, we even keep track of employees come and get free snow cones. We sell gift cards and T-shirts, and we have buy 6 get 1 free cards. But all that's kept track of it, and it shows them you're organized. We have open and closed checklists. Point is there are 1,000 different things that you can show, and a lot of those we have here, and it's simply a matter of being able to pull those up. So, Estella, is there anything you want to add, or Carl, Gordon, Aaron? Anybody?
On your business plan, when you go to the bank, do they expect that you have a location ahead of time, or do they? How does that play?
It's helpful. It's an excellent question. If you don't have to have a contract in place. What you've got to have is somebody that would sign a letter of intent that just says, yes, we'd be interested, or we'd be willing to let them set up here. However, we even have, and I'm glad you brought that up, we even developed a lease for you to walk in to there that you can take this and it walks through. I sat down with a lawyer and we put this together that addresses all the issues, and one of the pieces in here addresses the fact, I can't remember which line it is, but it says that if we're unable, oh, right here, number 9, that if the tenant is not able to obtain all necessary approvals, permits, and you could put in their loans, that this contract is then void. So if you walked in and already had a location, now you're even light years beyond where you were before. I mean, it's just, they're like, wow, you've got the location, you've got the forms, you've got everything. All you need to do is go buy the equipment. This person's done their footwork. They're not just walking in and saying, I'm thinking about this. Can I get money? You've knocked their socks off. So thank you, Estella. That is an excellent point, is if you pick the location. So I guess that means, Aaron, next week we need to start with how to find a location or find events.
Perfect. Hey, also, I have some questions here.
Okay.
Cindy's asking, have you heard of people having much success starting smaller and then building up? For example, instead of putting down 1% and making payments, maybe just buying a kiosk outright and working your way up. And in my opinion, if I just comment right now, yeah, absolutely, over and over and over. I would say even a great majority of our customers do exactly that.
I would agree too, Aaron.
Absolutely. And that's to start with one, and a good location will pay for itself in the first year. A good, you get 20 events, a kiosk will pay for itself in its first year. Even if it takes 2 years, and then you set that money aside and buy another unit. And that's what you try to do over time, is keep adding 1 or 2. If you go back and look at, an example of that, we were doing projections here of just that. And honestly, even if you don't go to the bank, this is awesome to sit down and say, what can I do? How much do I want to expand? What is it going to cost me out of my own finances? If you don't know where you've been, you don't know where you're going. If you don't have a plan, you're just ad hoc. You're taking risks without having something in front of you. And so the more information you can accumulate for yourself, but do you have to finance? Absolutely not. We just find that a lot of people want to, but an awful lot do pay for it themselves and then build from year to year to year. I started with 1 unit on a whim 10 years ago for my kids with something to do, and today we're running 11 units. And it's been building just that from year to year. So,
yeah, and I've seen people approach that 100 different ways, where we've even seen customers where they come in with 3 or 4 credit cards and they put their whole business on 4 cards. I'm like, man, it's brave, but there's a fair amount of people that do that, and they get started. They believe and know that it's going to work, and they do those things to pull the trigger.
Well,
I wanted to,
and
go ahead, Stella.
I was going to say, some people that do that, whatever works for you. If you're buying a $10,000 item like a cart and a shaver, and you want to start like in that area, some of these credit cards are giving free interest for a year, and so some of these folks are taking advantage of that. Why not? And giving yourself that time period to pay for it, which if you're working it right, if you're really working it right, you're going to pay for it within a very short time, and then at that point it's yours. It's 100% yours. So whatever works for you. If you can do it on a credit card and you've got some great opportunities with like very little interest, so be it. And we do accept all credit cards except for American Express.
Also, I wanted to touch on another question. It's Stephen asking, say, after you got a loan from the bank, do they require you buy new, or would I be able to buy a used Snowie bus if I found one?
Lyle can answer this too, but I sold a used van, and it depends a lot on the miles and the year. So yes, you can do that. It just depends a little bit on what the bank has. They've got their, maybe Lyle, you can help me out with here, but I think they've got specifics that they require. But I think if it falls in an area, you can buy used.
Yeah, typically I agree. Most of the time they will allow you. However, they are more likely to go to a secured loan with a used one rather than just a straight out business loan. However, if you walk in with a business plan, have your numbers, all the things we just talked through, your odds of getting a standard loan are going to be much better on it. But most of the time, most of them will do it, but you're right. It's the miles. You know, you got something that's got 150,000 miles on it, they're not going to be too keen. It's got 25,000 on it, they'll usually work with it. And yeah, but you've got to have enough to convince them that this is, even though it's a used vehicle, it's a new business opportunity. And approach it as if you go in and try to get a loan on a bus and try to get a car loan, don't. They're not going to insure a 2011 Chevy Express that's, you know, $65,000 or $70,000, or because they're even a brand new one. They're going to say that's a little overpriced. You got to remember, it's a business; it's not a car loan. They won't look at just a car loan with all the build out and everything that goes on that. So, good question. I know a couple of people emailed in here asking if I'd send them stuff. You'll need to email me directly at lyle@snowie.com. That's Lyle at Snowie. That's SNOWIE.com. Because I won't see this after we get off the thing, and I'm spending too much time talking, not making notes.
Lyle, are you the one that has T-shirts for the little kids?
Yeah, that's me. If you want to see that, go to Facebook and type in Snowie Cincinnati, and you'll see a picture on there. That happens to be my grandson was my model for that.
Okay.
It's really cute.
I have a quick question. Have you guys ever considered doing a Snowie convention / seminar for Snowie to be, or people that already have Snowie, and so they can share new items, flavors, etc., by product? Just for the camaraderie of it.
Have we ever considered that, Carl?
Yeah.
I've been asking Carl the same thing for 5 years.
Oh, there he is.
I think it would be an awesome convention. I think a lot of people would be interested, people that I've talked to that own Snowie, and a lot of good camaraderie. You can introduce new products for us to try, and really, I don't know if you'd be out of a lot because we pay for our own, you know, airfare, lodging, wherever you decided to have it. I think it would be a good thing.
Yeah, and also, just to touch on that as well, one thing that we're really starting to try and push again, we had our forum at one point, and I've mentioned what's happened to our forum in the past. We're rebuilding that, and one thing that we want to do is make kind of an owners-only section. So that, and I love your idea that we do it physically, but I also love the idea that you guys are doing that online together as well and communicating with other owners and not people who are just necessarily looking at getting into it but are already in the mix. And anyway, so look for that. In fact, it will be live this week, and if you'll go in and log into the forum, you'll be able to communicate back and forth that way as well.
But there is some value to sitting down once a year in the wintertime and let people come out for 2 or 3 days, and we have little mini seminars and that kind of stuff. I think there would be some advantageous benefits. Now you're showing my grandson having a miserable time. Now he's having fun.
I can't tell.
There's supposed to be a little full of the show's Snowy George. Oh, look at that ugly mug.
Let's see. Yeah, we're getting some other comments on having a seminar in the winter. Yeah, we need to look into this.
And we've even talked about doing a Snow University and having people, you could come in and we would run a building and show you all the little details on how we do things. Or maybe it's how do I just, you know, how do you manage employees? I mean, it could be, we could have some mini seminars as well as overall things that I think would be very beneficial. So we're open to, very open to suggestions and ideas.
Yeah, I think it would be beneficial as well as fun for all of it. Even if you guys have new flavors you want us to try, because I mean, like I'm a professional face painter, and I'm going to one of our conventions. I live in Sacramento, California, and I'm going to one of my face painting conventions, which is the biggest in the world, in Florida here next week. And they try out new products. We have camaraderie. We network. It's an awesome 4 days. Awesome. I mean, any ideas you have, try them on us. You know, I think it's really, it would be a really good thing to do.
Yeah, thank you for that suggestion. Also, I wanted to touch base. Jay's asked a couple times on commissary and on basically how. Let me get back to it. The best way to find and what would you expect to pay for a commissary? Every place that I have been and have done events, I've mostly, and this is just personal, I don't know how everybody else's experience has been, but I'll just make friends with a restaurant that's close, and almost always those guys are like, sure, you declare me as a commissary, and they go from there. I personally have never had to pay for a commissary. And usually it's just, I find somebody that's close to the venue, close to, or like if you have a permanent location, find a restaurant that's close, go in and shake hands and talk to them, and usually they're really, really good about just letting you do that and helping you do it. Anybody else have input on that?
Can I add something to that?
Yeah.
Okay, I was going to say also, that's a good point, Aaron. And if anything, if they don't just let you do it, you could pay them a small portion if you did network with a restaurant. But I was going to also say schools. And sometimes some of the schools, and I don't know if it works in the summer, but I've seen if you can network with like schools. But I also was going to tell you there is a facility. That's all they do. It's just a commissary, and you pay. And I'm not sure how much. Maybe Lyle, you know, I don't know. That you can basically, and it's your own commissary. And I don't know if you share it, but you pay, and that's all it is. That's all they do. They provide a commissary for people like in our situation that are doing these type of venues or events and stuff like that.
You've lost me on video. I had to dial back in on my phone. My computer crashed.
Oh, did you hear what I said?
I just caught the tail end. You're talking about, because I saw the question on there about a commissary.
Well, I was just saying that, you know, you can network with restaurants, like, which is what Aaron's talking about, and I think some of the schools you could probably do as well, but I'm not sure. And then I was just saying that there is a facility, and I don't know how much, but I've heard through a customer that you can rent a commissary. It's like, and I don't know if you share that with someone, but it's like that's all they do is provide a kitchen and a place to dump your waste and that sort of thing. And I don't know the fees, but that's all they do, and you can look into that. But I just don't know much about it. I just know that it can be done, and there's places that do it.
Yeah.
My understanding here in California is that they have to also house your unit because you're not supposed to keep it at your house.
Oh, really?
Yes, that's what we were told here. We have the building 5 by 8, I think it is.
So they're saying you have to keep it a commissary?
Yes, you cannot keep that your building on. You're not supposed to keep the building on site.
And I understand, right? And I understand that part, but I didn't think you had to keep it at the commissary. I thought you could just put it in a storage unit of some sort.
No, what they have is usually a storage facility that's right there with the commissary, and you have to leave it on site. They have an Adirondack building, 3-sided, and you can leave it in there, but it's got to stay in a gated area so that it's all part, and then the commissary you can work out of. And California does that more than any place, but every city has its own regulations regarding that. And so you just got to look at, that's hard for us to answer because there are so many variations. You know, I know all the health code for the state of Ohio, and yet I got a person that's 2 hours north of me that got blindsided by the Board of Health on stuff that makes absolutely no sense. And if the individual city made up its own rules that override what the state does, even though it's a statewide permit here. And to go into that city, you got to adhere. So you have to look at that. I did what Estella talked about. I started with a friend, had a restaurant, and I came in and made 5-gallon jug of sugar water a couple times a week. And that was what got us going. And as we began to build and expand, so we got a place, and we ended up with another place that had a little small commissary in it that met the requirements, and then we just kept expanding off of that. So if you want to call us individually, we can talk with you and help you work through the issues that are in your individual area and give you some different suggestions based on what information you have.
Also, Jay brought up a question. He said for a future webinar topic, temporary help permits versus commissary. For me on that, I've always, even with temporary help permits, I've always still had to declare a commissary. And that's just me personally. I don't know if that's just what we have here. Has anybody else had experience where it's a versus thing?
No, because the temporary help permit is to allow you to operate a venue or an event, and that you have the hand wash sinks and everything. The commissary has nothing to do with operating the event. It has to do with the preparation of your sugar waters and concentrates and all this stuff ahead of time to bring to the event. So they're two.
Right, I understand that. Like I just did that breast cancer event this last weekend, and my temporary permit, I had to write a commissary. They would not give it to me.
Yeah, but I don't think it applies to the permits. I think it applies to just to the health department area. So they are requiring that you know all of the rules and regulations when it comes to, the health part, which is where you prepare, where you dump, that sort of thing. So I don't think it applies to the permits from the city. Does that make sense?
Well, for the health permit, for a temporary health permit, for me to obtain one, I had to declare a commissary, or they would not give me the permit.
For the health.
There's some cities will do that. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Gotcha.
But my point is, the commissary really it's for food preparation. The health permit is for the event operation.
That's what I was trying to say. You're right. Didn't come out that way.
That's okay. We'll keep tabs on you.
Okay. Anything else? Does anybody have any questions? If also feel free to speak.
Okay. I think you said it was Jay that threw that out. And we can bring that in on some future points and discuss in a little more detail. But thank you for giving us suggestions for future seminars. I think we're always trying to say what's going to be the most beneficial thing we can do and helpful to everybody.
And we really want to do. We've all been in the biz for so long that there's things that we can talk about, but we would like to talk about what you guys really have questions for.
There are 16 other callers on the call.
Oh, we're getting some feedback. Okay. Anybody else have anything?
Yeah, I got a quick question.
Yeah.
Is the webinar 2 and 3, are they available back to review?
And we're getting, I don't know where we're going. Okay. So go ahead and ask that again.
Is the webinar 2 and 3, are they ready to be, can we go back and review them?
Yeah, 1 and 3 are available, and 4 will be available later today. 2, like I said, 2 is just little snippets. I'm going to get that piece together and put it up, but even a lot of 2, what we discussed in 2, has been discussed in like 1 and 3. So I haven't made a mad rush to get that up, but I'll get that up for you.
Yeah, we have a few technical difficulties on number 2.
And 3 is available right now.
Okay, I haven't gone back into the computer. I'm in my vehicle right now. But I did have a question out of 2, and I wasn't able to catch it all. You were talking about, I believe it was I don't remember if it was the 3000, but somebody hooked it up to an inverter, and you said that the unit, the Snowie unit was laboring quite a bit. It couldn't keep up. Do you know what size inverter they were using?
I do know. In fact, I'm going to bring up, if you go to our forum, and I'm going to go there on our website right now, you guys can still see my screen, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
If you go to that and you go to Snowie Shavers, you actually go down here and choose, can I use my Snowie 3000 eye shaver with an inverter? That talks about all of this. I actually go through some cost benefit on using one or not. The one that they're specifically using is called a Xantrex 3012. is the one that they were using. And again, I kind of state in here a few times, Snowie has never tested this inverter. The one thing that I wanted to bring up as well is when they were telling us that it was working, they were also using a type of pebble ice, so really teeny ice, and it was shaving it very simple that way. So we don't know if you put in real cubed ice like we encourage people to do, we don't know if that thing would struggle or not.
Okay.
Say again, sorry.
What size is that inverter again?
Well, I wonder if you actually looked it up. Let's see here. I have the specs on the battery. I just put the model up there. So it's the Xantrex 3012. I don't have any. I didn't spec it out as far as like how strong it was. But if you Googled that, I went like right to that model by doing that. So you'd be able to pop right to that company if you wanted to look at the specific specs on it.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the question. We also have Jay again asking if you have people that use the kiosk for winter products. And the answer is absolutely. Even we do. We have a killer way. We don't bring it up very often, but we have an incredible way of serving hot chocolate and coffee. I don't know if Gordon ever got on this. Gordon's become the king at serving that. We serve whole arenas where stadiums have never been able to serve proficiently their customers hot chocolate and coffee, and we have a really, really fast way of doing that. So if you want to contact us about that as well, we can help you. What we normally do as far as the look of the building, we will print banners that will wrap around your building, and then they'll kind of bungee in the back. So it's like a big tight fit around your kiosk or your building or your cart. And that changes the whole look. Now you're a hot chocolate stand. We have people that do that quite a bit. I never pulled the trigger on it, and I've always felt like it'd be a good idea. But we have here in Salt Lake, we have a guy that he does like some custom soups. They're actually called Big City Soup. Incredible soups. And I talked to that guy at one point, and he said, "Man, we get some containers. I'll make you soup every morning, and you'll be able to serve that stuff hot, piping hot for lunch." Anyway, absolutely. You can keep these buildings going with multiple stuff. We actually have a guy that we build stands for that he does Belgian waffles and French hot dogs, and he's actually stationed at ski resorts. That guy, he does a lot of different products, and he uses our stands to do it.
Hey, Aaron?
Yeah.
I'll show them an idea. If you want to jump the picture over to me, the screen.
Yeah.
Now, this isn't the hot chocolate, but it's the idea of what you're talking about.
I should have some chocolate.
I do lemonade as well. So at certain events, like this particular one, I do 2 snow cone stands and a lemonade stand at one event. And this is our Snowy kiosk, and I've just taken and wrapped around it. It's a banner, just a vinyl banner that you'd normally have made, just in lemonade, and it's wrapped all the way around, and then we Velcro it to the back side. Put a Velcro strap on there and holds it in place, and when we're done, we take the cover off, and it's back to a Snowy kiosk. So, yeah, it easily can be done. There.
Jay asked, sorry. And Jay asked also if we do it more in enclosed buildings. Yeah, for the winter, obviously it's more comfortable in an enclosed building. That's mostly how those guys function. But going back to the hot chocolate, like at the University of Utah, when there are motocross events, a lot of times those things are in the spring or in the fall, and it starts. I remember one time it was freezing, and that whole stadium was in Snowy's lines getting hot chocolate. But that was just on the 5-foot carts, and we actually take the top. If you look at, let me get a picture over here. If you get a look at our flavor station, if you can see my mouse here, see how there's a seam right here.
Aaron, you need to take it back. You've got me on the screen still.
I forgot. Am I back?
Okay, now you're back.
So if you look at this, whoop.
No, I'm just saying, I'm not sure what you're showing.
I'm showing an older one here, but see the seam right here? On all of our flavor stations, this whole section is what contains your flavors and all of that. That can come off. And we actually will put thermoses of hot chocolate and coffee on this stand, so people are still serving themselves. So now we're literally selling a cup. They come up, they buy a cup, and they go and they fill their own. And then at that time, it's worth it to kind of police people and make sure they're not just like constantly refilling their cups.
I found it easier to just use a 2 foot by 4 foot table and put it right next to the building.
Yeah,
it'll hold 3 5-gallon jugs.
That would work too. Okay.
So much for our half hour.
Anything else? I know. We went over an hour anyway. But this is great. I mean, it was your questions. That's what we want to do. We really want to answer your questions, what you guys are looking to find out and know. How do you keep them hot? The thermoses will keep them hot. What we do is we will prep the thermoses. We will make the thermoses piping hot with the hot water before we ever put the product in them. Then when we make it, we make the product hot, and then when we put it in the already prepped thermos, it keeps it very hot. It's unreal how long. I've actually kept hot chocolate. I would serve them at the baseball stadium that I'm in, and I would be able to just keep a thermos there, and you know, if it's kind of an off day where you'll have kids, because kids will buy a shaved ice at any kind of weather. It could be a blizzard outside, and a kid will buy a shaved ice. So we would have that going too. But even when the temperature's kind of an in between, they would require that I kept a thermos there as well for people who wanted coffee or hot chocolate, and that thermos would keep it hot the whole time.
Yeah, we go through it quick enough that it stays fairly hot. That's the thing, is that we go through them fast as well.
Well, that's why I brought up. Sorry. That's why I brought up the kind of the in-between day where you don't have where people are, you know, they're not hot for a shaved ice and they're not cold for that. And I've had where a thermos has sat for a whole game, a whole baseball game, and that thing's as hot at the end as it was in the beginning. It keeps it hot.
If you're doing it right, your temperature should be in the 175 to 180 degrees is what's considered normal for a hot chocolate. At 150, you'd think it was cold. I know that sounds awfully hot, but it's the reality that your mouth tolerates a much greater heat than we normally do. And you put it in a good, like an ice chill cooler or thermos. I'm trying to think what Igloo calls there. They have a blue one that's their ultra ice or something like that. And it'll lose less than 5 degrees over a 2-hour period. So it does, as they're saying, it holds it and holds it well.
Yeah. And Jay, your last question, how do you prep it at the building? You have to have a fresh water supply. We've done this at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway, where all we had was a hose coming to some locations. You would have to have fresh water to be able to pull off what we do, just so you know that. But once you have that, yeah, you can do it.
Yeah, it gets a little more complicated than we can go into here. We got another topic. What do we do in the off season, or what's some other avenues using Snowie equipment? Like I had the lemonade, and we've got the hot chocolate as well. So there are some other great ideas. I'll add it to our list.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else? Last request? Okay, I think we'll end it. Thank you very much for everyone joining us again today, and we'll look forward to speaking with you next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you much. Everybody have a great day.